Welcome to This Week in Astrology. This is episode number 554 for October 5 through 11, 2020. What's new this week? A Mars-Pluto square brings the two planets of sex into a heated relationship. We also have 5 unique aspect patterns. A Thor's hammer amps up relationship and creativity. A kite supports selfless service. And a mystic rectangle inspires soul-aligned action. A hard rectangle peaks, a yod tests relationships, and we also have 3 bonus aspects that are not in my written forecast. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm your host, Benjamin Bernstein, broadcasting from thisweekinastrology.com. I simultaneously record these weekly forecasts as an audio podcast and a video, so you can choose whichever format you prefer. The video version includes detailed chart graphics for things like lunations and aspect patterns. You can also see these graphics in my written forecasts at astroshaman.com. This Week in Astrology is honored to be one of the internet's top 10 astrology podcasts. Check out our website where you can hear the show and subscribe to podcast updates. And if you haven't already, be sure to click the link in the show notes for 2 chances to win a free Astrology Plus session with me each month. What's old as we come into this week? We have a waning moon and 2 remaining retrograde planets, Chiron through December 15 and Uranus through January 14. Let's get into what's new. Monday, October 5th, powerful creative and relational possibilities are fired up by a potent Thor's hammer. This dynamic aspect pattern features Mars squaring Pluto on the back end and both planets sesquaring Venus at the tip. Do you have unhealed wounds in a relationship? If so, this Thor's hammer could stir them up. You might have use for the relationship healing techniques in Marshall Rosenberg's globally acclaimed book, Nonviolent Communication. For your internal healing work, hundreds have praised the extraordinary speed and effectiveness of my free healing invocation. I'll have links to both that book and that technique in the show notes. In more flowing territory, this Thor's hammer could set you up for some of the best sex you've ever had. Mars and Pluto are the 2 planets of sexuality, while Venus represents relationships. Whether you're into straight up physical pleasure or the more profound ecstasy of sacred sex, this aspect pattern can stoke the erotic fire. This Thor's hammer can also empower your creativity, whether you're just working out an idea or laying on the final touches. There can also be financial opportunity here, but avoid impulsiveness, that would be Mars in Aries, and exercise due diligence in your spending and investing, that would be Venus in Virgo. Tuesday, October 6th, selfless service to a higher cause is smoothly supported by a kite that started on September 20, peaks today on October 6th, and ends on October 19th. It includes Mars, Vesta, and the lunar nodes. Vesta represents your service that supports a worthy cause, but doesn't directly benefit you, unless you count that rosy glow of satisfaction. Mars in Aries adds dynamic energy to your service and can help you get it rolling. Finally, the lunar nodes recommend that this service align with your life purpose. With the nodes in the axis of communication, North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sagittarius, your contribution might somehow involve communication or persuasion. You can also get an energy boost for your soul-aligned activities thanks to a mystic rectangle that starts today on October 6th, peaks on the 14th, and ends on the 21st. It includes the Sun, Mars, and the lunar nodes. With the Sun in Libra, creativity and relationships that sync up with your soul purpose receive flowing, energized support. And with the lunar nodes in the axis of communication, South Node in Sagittarius, North Node in Gemini, you can also direct this vibrant energy into any kind of learning, writing, or communication. Wednesday, October 7th, a hard rectangle featuring Mercury, Juno, Uranus, and the lunar nodes started on October 2nd. It has its first peak today on October 7th, peaks again on October 20th, and ends on October 24th. This double peak is made possible by Mercury turning retrograde on October 13th. Thursday, October 8th, it's likely you'll get some challenging relationship catalyst from a finger of God that formed on October 4th, peaks today on October 8th, and ends on the 12th. This yacht includes Venus and Juno on the back end and Chiron at the tip. Venus represents all important relationships. Placed in Virgo, She asks if the type of service you're giving in a relationship is appropriate. Do you feel happy and fulfilled with a genuine desire to serve in that way again? Or do you feel anger, spite, or resentment? Juno raises the bar to include only committed partnerships. Placed in Scorpio, she asks if such a relationship is deep, honest, authentic, and vulnerable. If the relationship is sexual, are you able to experience the ecstatic blending of your souls when you make love? Chiron, highlighted at the tip, is the wounded healer. He knows which of your emotional wounds are ripe for healing, and he'll do his best to see that they get stirred up by one of your relationships. If you use an effective shadow work tool, Chiron can help you heal that old wound once and for all. This yod also holds other possibilities. It can support any type of mentoring or healing, whether you're giving or receiving. More specifically, it can support mentoring or healing in two other areas represented by Venus: creativity and finances. On Friday, October 9th, a Mars-Pluto square, Mars 22 Aries and Pluto 22 Capricorn, brings the two planets of sex into a heated relationship. As I wrote on August 13th, you can use this potent libido booster for straight up physical pleasure, or you can lift your erotic connection into the ecstatic realms of sacred sex by also blending your light bodies together. On the dark side, this square could represent rape or sexual assault, as well as any kind of attack or destructive action. Do your best to steer clear of potentially violent people or situations. On the high side, this square can supercharge your leadership, athleticism, and entrepreneurship. It can also bring up old psychological wounds for healing. Mars retrograde causes it to square Pluto 3 times. The first was on August 13th. The second is today on October 9th. The third will be on December 23rd. Mars came into orb, which means close enough to connect energetically, of the first square on July 27th, and will not leave the orb of the square for good until January 9th of 2021. However, the Mars-Pluto square will be out of orb November 5th through November 25th. For more on Mars, see my August 13 forecast called 5 months of Mars squaring Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter. Also today, on October 9th, that Venus, Mars, Pluto, Thor's hammer I interpreted a few minutes ago started on the 5th and peaks today and ends on the 12th. Let's go to Saturday, October 10th. Oh, it's our first bonus aspect, Venus trine Uranus. Venus is at 10 Virgo, Uranus is at 10 Taurus. So Venus, again, she has 3 primary roles. Let's say it's relationship. Uranus, of course, is do something different, go outside the box, shock, surprise, good or bad. So it's just saying, can you bring some creativity, some originality to how you're relating? Instead of just doing the same old thing all the time, the trine says it might be easy to try a fresh idea. Uranus communicates by intuitive hits, so watch for those and ask yourself, what insights am I getting around my relationships? Venus is also creativity, and this is obviously a beautiful thing under which you might get some cool new creative ideas. Let's not forget that Venus is in Virgo, which is about fine-tuning, precision, taking things to the next level incrementally. So that means you might get ideas on how you could, take your relationship up in some small way or some significant structural way. And Venus in Virgo is great for editing or refining creativity. So a writer might want to make the final draft, a painter might want to put the final brushstrokes on, things like that. You could also use Venus for money. That is one of her core representatives. And therefore, you might get some insights around financial stuff. And then you might want to do the incremental, fine, step-by-step things to take whatever financial steps you're inspired to take. Let's move on to Sunday, October 11th. 2 more bonus aspects. They both involve the sun. The first is Sun squared Jupiter. That's the sun at 19 Libra. Jupiter is at 19 Capricorn. And then there's Sun Quincunx Neptune, Sun 19 Libra still, and Neptune's at 19 Pisces. So this is the sun aspecting 2 slower planets. Let's start with Sun squared Jupiter. Jupiter tends to be expansive unless there's compromising circumstances. Jupiter is joyous, celebratory, etc. So basically, Sun is vitality, core of self. The Sun squared Jupiter, wow, just you might feel great. You might have bunches of energy. You might want to jump around, do active things. Of course, Jupiter has more meanings than any other planet. because it's the biggest gas giant. Somehow the larger the planet, the more the meanings. So you could say, well, I might be inspired to go into philosophy or religion, or what's life about right now. Jupiter can be foreign lands. Maybe I'm going to go travel or just expose myself to something from a foreign land. Jupiter is being the higher level student, learning really cool, meaningful things like college and beyond kind of stuff. Maybe Jupiter is the professor, the philosopher, the guru. Are you inspired to get that kind of thing going on? So Jupiter has a whole range of meanings, not all of which I've even covered here. The sun in Libra says I might have a really expanded desire to relate, or maybe I've got a real expansive desire to be creative. So those are a number of ways in which that sun square Jupiter could play out. What about Sun Quincunx Neptune? Very different energy. Neptune is the mystical planet. It's about divine oneness. It's about inspired creativity. And of course, now we have a correlation. The sun in Libra, the sign of the artist, and Neptune, the planet of divine inspiration, that's a natural fit. Quincunx is, however, a adjustment angle. So this says if you take some time for your creativity and invite the download, I love to invoke creativity instead of just wait for it to show up on its own. I say, Spirit that I am, flow the creativity through me that serves highest good. And it's amazing how that can kickstart creativity. So the sun Quincunx Neptune is great for creative expression, great for mystical stuff. In this context, Libra could be relationship, and Neptune is the divine, the relationship with the divine. Again, if you make time to meditate or do your spiritual practices of some kind, that can bring that together under the sun Quincunx Neptune. So those are some cool ways you can play with that. Be cautious about the low Neptune, especially with harder aspects. Neptune can possibly tempt you with its downside, which could be like substance abuse, excessive escapism, aimless drifting, or being the victim in a partnership. So if any of that's happening or tempting you, put your attention back on the mystical or creative parts of Neptune. Normally, my advice in any astrological context is cultivate the high side, and there will be less energy left for the low side. The one exception is if you are actually addicted to something, then it's really good to seek professional help. That is all of our aspects. Everyone is welcome to participate in most live Awakening Plus calls for free. These calls support your individual healing and awakening and also support the current global spiritual awakening. I've got my October schedule up. I've got a lot of things on the calendar, so here's brief descriptions of each. On this Tuesday, October 6th, we have a bonus event called The Singing Bowl, Harmonizing the Heart, facilitated by Makisla. This was postponed from the prior week, but we are doing it this Tuesday. My beloved Makisla, who sometimes co-facilitates our Awakening Plus events, takes a solo turn with her new Heart Chakra Crystal Singing Bowl. She'll bathe you in ancient Atlantean crystal vibration and will hold space as your vibration is attuned. Then on Tuesday, October 13th, we'll do Divinely Directed. This event is guided by Spirit's in-the-moment guidance to serve each person's highest good. Each divinely directed call is unique, but a typical call features a subtle field being held within this sacred space. Each person receives the specific awakening, healing, or spiritual experience that serves their highest good. Words like bliss and euphoria simply are not adequate to describe some of the ecstatic spiritual experiences we share in the inner worlds. That should last about an hour. On October 20th, Tuesday, we have individual healings that also bless the senders. I'm going to be kind of brief because these are a little ways off. And on Tuesday, October 27th, we have our guest presenter, Becky Lee. Her event is called Get Unstuck, Release the Multidimensional Vows and Promises That Hold You Back. Awakening Plus features at least 3 live streaming events each month, although we're doing lots of bonus events during the pandemic. Most are open to everyone for free. The archive of over 260 transformative events, as well as accountability partners and the forum, are available exclusively to members. Learn more at awakeningplus.com. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, I'm Benjamin Bernstein from astroshaman.com. I can serve you with astrology readings, shamanic healing, awakening activation, astrological event timing, and one-of-a-kind life coaching. All my one-on-one services are equally effective in person or long distance, and during the pandemic, I have dropped my rates significantly. I also offer an unbeatable price on SolarFire, the #1 astrology software for Windows. And as I mentioned, I run the Awakening Plus online membership for spiritual support. You can learn about this and more at astroshaman.com. You want to check out the show notes. They're at astroshaman.com/554. Please reach out if you have any questions. My email is astroshamanbenjamin@gmail.com. My number for voice and text, 828-338-9852. I would love to connect with you. We're wrapping up. Please leave me a rating, review, or comment wherever you're getting this episode so others like you can find it. Thanks again for spending this time with me. Stay safe, stay healthy. I wish you infinite blessings as the stars light your way.